Senator Smith. That concludes that session, and we'll move to question time. And I call Senator Sharma.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Wong. Minister, have you advised the Prime Minister to apologise to the Japanese Prime Minister for the crude and insulting comments and gestures he made when discussing a symbolic and thoughtful gift of crown melons he received from her?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. First, I would say to those opposite that Prime Minister Takaichi is a friend of Australia's and a friend of the Prime Minister's, and the relationship with Japan is closer than it has ever been. I am disappointed that those opposite are so desperate to score political points that they seek to confect a diplomatic issue to do so. The relationship with Japan has bipartisan support, as it should be. It is a very important relationship for Australia, and I would emphasise how grateful I am to have the close relationship that I have with Foreign Minister Motegi, who I spoke to just over a fortnight ago on the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. Those opposite would know that I have, or may know, I have visited Japan, I think, 7 times as Foreign Minister. This goes to the relationship between Japan and Australia, and I'll take.
Order. The question's been asked.
I think Senator Cash, I think, is demonstrating why she's no longer in this shadow portfolio by her interjections and by what she has said. We take very seriously the importance of the relationship with Japan.
Order. Order. My goodness, we're into the first question. I've called order about 7 times. Minister, please continue.
Australia's relationship with Japan is one of the most important relationships we have. In fact, I often describe it publicly as our special strategic partnership is second only to our alliances, particularly our alliance with the United States. Now, it's a relationship that has been strengthened under this government, and we will continue to do that because it is in Australia's national interest.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Sharma, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Well, look.
I'm sorry, Senator Sharma. I'll just wait until there's order on your side. Senator Sharma.
Far from confecting a diplomatic issue, Japan's former ambassador to Australia wrote only yesterday the last thing she expected was to be so casually mocked by the trusted leader of Japan's special strategic partner. Minister, do you agree the comments were unacceptable and unworthy of an Australian Prime Minister?
Before I call Minister Wong, I'm going to remind those, particularly on my right, that Senator Sharma had the right to ask his question in silence. Minister Wong.
As Senator Gallagher has said today, the Prime Minister has been clear that he did not mean for those comments to be interpreted in the way they have been by those opposite. I again say, Prime Minister Takaichi is a friend of Australia's and a friend of the Prime Minister's. Now, it's a friend of the Prime Minister's, a friend of Australia's, and I would make this point, Senator, that through you, that this is a relationship.
Minister Wong, I'm sorry. Please resume your seat. I've called for order on my left. Senator Ruston, you were one of the people that was out of order the first time round, and you've continued to be. Please come to order. Minister Wong, please continue.
Again, what I would say is we appreciated very much Prime Minister Takaichi's visit to Australia, and the Prime Minister was honoured to receive her, just as I was honoured to deliver the keynote address at the event celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Nara Treaty. We will continue to work in our relationship with Japan, which is so important to strategic balance in the Indo-Pacific.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Sharma. I'm sorry, Senator Sharma. Resume your seat. Senator Ruston, I've asked you to come to order. I expect you to come to order. Senator Sharma, second sup.
Thank you. Minister, what steps have you as Foreign Minister taken to ensure our partnership with Japan, one of our most valued trading and security partners, is not damaged by the Prime Minister's boorish and insulting behaviour?
Order. Senator Ayres. Minister Wong.
Well, again, what I'd say to the senator is the relationship with Japan is something that has strengthened since we have been in government, that we engage closely and regularly, that the Prime Minister regards Prime Minister Takaichi as a personal friend as well as a friend of our nation, and we are grateful for the close relationship we have. And, Senator, I know that there's a lot of division and unrest in opposition ranks which has been spoken about, but I don't believe that distracting from that by diminishing Australia's relationships is responsible.
Order. Order. Minister Wong, had you concluded? Thank you. Senator Ciccone.
Thanks, President. Good to see you and colleagues again. Now, my question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Wong. Minister, following the treaty signings last month by Prime Minister Albanese and Prime Minister Rabuka of Fiji, this week the Australian Government will table the Vulvale Union and Ocean of Peace Alliance here in Parliament, marking a new chapter in our relationship with Fiji. Could the Minister please explain to the Senate what these treaties mean for Australia and how continued engagement with the Pacific, including last week at the PIF Foreign Ministers meeting, strengthens Australia's place in our region?
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Minister Wong.
Thanks to Senator Ciccone for his question, and I appreciate the opportunity to update the Senate on the Vulvale Union and the Ocean of Peace Alliance. These two treaties are some of the most comprehensive and important endeavours Australia has undertaken with any country, where they are grounded in our two nations' shared trust, respect and responsibility. The Vulvale Union's three pillars, security, economies and people, will underpin our relationship with Fiji for generations to come. And, of course, the Ocean of Peace Alliance, our mutual defence treaty, commits Australia and Fiji to come to each other's aid in times of greatest need. We are saying that we will be there for one another. The government's credibility and reliability with Pacific partners is now why we now count Fiji and Papua New Guinea as Australian allies, and these agreements are milestones in the Albanese government's work to secure Australia's future in our region, because a stronger, safer, sovereign and more prosperous Pacific benefits every Australian. I have spoken publicly about the permanent contest Australia finds ourselves in, and we cannot be complacent about this. Advancing our national interests requires sustained effort, and just last week I was back in Fiji for the Pacific Islands Forum Foreign Ministers meeting, continuing the government's work to advance Pacific priorities and our shared interests. We know how important it is that Pacific countries work together to ensure the future of our region is determined by our region's countries and peoples. And with new alliances with Papua New Guinea and Fiji, the Nakamal Agreement with Vanuatu, our Whalapili Union with Tuvalu and the Nauru Australian Treaty, Labor continues our work to deliver a peaceful, stable and prosperous Pacific.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ciccone, first supplementary.
Thanks a lot, Minister, and thank you, President. As the Minister has previously said, President, Australia must embrace all elements of our national power, including our unique cultural and historic regional ties, to ensure that our place in the region and in the world. Now, how has the Albanese Labor government, Minister, worked to make use of our national advantage, and how has it complemented the government's work to strengthen every single one of our relationships in the region?
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. And you refer to the times we face, and they are uncertain and unstable times, and we have to use every tool at our disposal to shape a peaceful, stable and prosperous region. Centuries before Europeans arrived, First Nations people connected Australia with the world. They were Australia's first diplomats and first traders, and this is a source of strategic national advantage. This was highlighted when Yolngu elder Japari Mungarichi stood alongside the Prime Ministers of Australia and Fiji at the signing of the Ocean of Peace Alliance and Vulvale Union. Yolngu Alders gifted a name from Yolngu Martha, bookmark everyone to the new forum at our heart of the Vale Union. There is no other country that can emulate or replicate Australia's historical connections to the Pacific and Southeast Asia. And that is why we will keep drawing on the full breadth and depth of Australia's experience and capabilities in order to create a stronger and safer region.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ciccone, second supplementary.
Thank you again, President. Now, as the Minister has outlined, the Albanese Labor government is working with the Pacific, and proudly so, to deliver on our shared priorities and work alongside the region. Minister, what has enabled Australia to improve our standing in the region, and what risks are there to this constructive and productive approach?
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Minister Wong.
Thank you. Well, we in the Albanese government know that the job of building a safer, more secure region will never be over. And that is why we're using all arms of national power to strengthen Australia's relationships in the Pacific, to continue building trust and to remain a partner of choice. And we have been turning up, listening and working to advance Pacific priorities. We have prioritised Australia's position as the Pacific's largest and most comprehensive development partner, because when Labor came to government, we chose to deliver real change in our foreign policy. And this is why we have made transformational breakthroughs in the Pacific. But we know we have to keep working hard every day. We cannot afford to return to the days of neglect, and we will keep persistently pressing Australia's national interest in our region every day.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Andrew Green at the Nightly has reported today that the Japanese government was surprised to see confidential correspondence to the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet about the Prime Minister's melon mess leaked to the media. Minister, do you know how the media obtained this sensitive diplomatic correspondence?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Wong.
Thank you. Senator Patterson, I would also say to you, as someone who does care about our relationships with the region, and I hope would not be party to putting out really what is misinformation, which is what we have seen from some of those opposite. I would hope that you understand the importance of ensuring we have a strong relationship with Japan. I would encourage you to not participate in the confection of a diplomatic issue, which we are seeing from those less responsible on your side of the parliament. In relation to what you have raised, I have seen those reports publicly. I don't know what correspondence is being referred to. What I would say is what I said in response to Senator Sharma. The Prime Minister of Japan, Prime Minister Takaichi, is a friend of Australia's and a friend of the Prime Minister. I can say to you that the Prime Minister was personally committed to ensuring that Prime Minister Takaichi felt at home during her visit to Australia, including joining her at the Nara Peace Park. It was a very successful visit, and it is a very important relationship, and I hope it is treated as such by all parties.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Will the government launch an investigation into how confidential correspondence from one of our closest and most important partners to the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet was leaked to the media?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Wong.
Senator, I have seen the reports. I don't know what, as I referred to my earlier answer in relation to the correspondence. What I would say to you is we have a very close and trusting relationship with the Government of Japan.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, isn't it true that in a desperate attempt to clean up the Prime Minister's self-inflicted melon mess, the government is now risking a critical bilateral relationship by leaking confidential correspondence? Wouldn't it be easier for the Prime Minister to just admit he got it wrong and say sorry?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Wong.
Can I make this point, that I am answering the question. Thank you for the advice. I appreciate it. The risk to relationships is borne by all parties in this chamber, and there are those opposite who have engaged, who are so desperate to score political points that they are confecting a diplomatic issue to do so. And really we've seen that We saw that. We've seen that with Senator
Order.
Cash's public
Order.
statements, and
Order.
I would invite those opposite to, with the government, engage in bipartisan support of the Japan relationship, which is what it has historically enjoyed.
Senator McGrath, come to order. Senator Waters.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Last week, we heard damning evidence about the predatory behaviour of gambling corporations, grooming people with a gambling addiction to keep betting, and letting streaming services continue to advertise with no limits. Yet today, we're hearing media reports of a deal between Labor and the Liberals to pass weak gambling reforms that do not fully deal with the recommendations in the Murphy report. How can you sleep at night doing a deal with the Liberals to pass gambling reforms that protect gambling corporations' profits, rather than delivering evidence-based policy that protects people?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Wong.
Well, the focus of the reforms that the government has brought forward is the protection of Australians. I think that is something we all wish to do. I appreciate you don't agree with some of the current policy, and you certainly don't agree with us talking to the coalition in order to pass legislation. We have to deal with this chamber, as you know, Senator, with either the coalition or yourselves in order to get legislation passed. We don't have the majority in this chamber, so by necessity we have to negotiate to pass legislation, and that is what we are doing. We do believe that it is important to move forward in this legislation. We want to be able to break the connection between live sport and gambling advertising. We want to ban gambling advertising during live sports broadcasts. We want to ban gambling ads on radio during school pick-up and drop-off time. And we want to ban stadium advertising, jersey advertising and the use of celebrities. I understand that there have been constructive discussions both with the Greens and the opposition. We thank you for your engagement. Ultimately, the government needs to engage with either of those two groups in the chamber in order to pass the parliament. We've said that we are open to sensible amendments to deliver real change, and that's what the government's engaging in.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters, first supplementary.
Thank you. Alongside your dodgy deal on gambling, you plan to work with the Liberals to kick 241,000 disabled people off the NDIS to save money off the backs of disabled people. Almost all witnesses to the inquiry said these horrendous NDIS cuts should not pass. How can you sleep at night when you're ganging up with the Liberals to cut essential support to 241,000 people?
Minister Gallagher.
Just point of order in relation to whether the second question, the first supplementary, relates to the primary question, which was about gambling law reform.
Thank you, Minister. I will just order. I am struggling too to find the relevance, but I will take the advice of the clerk. My advice is there isn't a connection, but I will invite Minister Wong to answer the question in a way that she thinks is relevant. Thank you, Senator Waters.
Well, Senator, I suppose the response might be, how can you sleep at night knowing that you would make sure that the NDIS could not survive? I mean, that is actually the issue. And I appreciate, I respect that you have a right to run a political campaign. We have to continue to deliver real change, and that means we have to ensure that the NDIS can stay strong and continue to support Australians who so desperately need it, not just this year, not just next year, but for decades to come, and that is what the government is seeking to do with the changes which we are engaging in.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters, second supplementary.
Thank you. The government's job is to look after people. If you're looking for ways to fix the budget bottom line, then a 25% gas export tax would raise $17 billion a year. Why does Labor keep doing favours for big corporations and making money off the back of disabled people instead of working in the interests of Australians?
Thank you, Minister Gallagher.
Well, again, I'm not sure how that question relates to the primary question, or indeed the first supplementary either.
Thank you, Minister. I am going to once again ask Minister Wong if she wishes to make a contribution, because I'm ruling that question out of order. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, we've addressed this previously. I would make this point to you, Senator. You make a whole range of personal assertions about people's motivation. We are always motivated. Yes, you are. Motivations of the Labor Party and the Labor government. The Labor government is motivated to try and work to deliver real change for Australians who are experiencing cost of living pressure now, to deliver real change on national security and foreign policy, to deliver real change on the economy, to deliver real change on housing, to deliver real change so that we can continue to deliver a strong Medicare system and a strong NDIS, not just now, not just next year, but in decades to come. That is what we are motivated by.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Dowling, welcome back.
Great to be back, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher. A responsible approach to the budget has allowed the Albanese Labor government to deliver another tax cut for every taxpayer from 1st of July. We've delivered wage increases for around 3 million workers and increased payments for 2.6 million Australians who need them most. Can the Minister update the Senate on how the government's responsible approach to budget management is delivering cost of living relief for Australians and continuing to build the services and support Australians rely on?
Thank you, Senator Dowling. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Dowling for the question, and welcome back, and congratulations on the new member of the family. We can't wait to meet her when you bring her to Canberra. And in relation to the question, we have, just in the last week or so, seen that S&P Global have endorsed the government's responsible economic and fiscal management by reaffirming Australia's AAA credit rating. And we remain one of only 9 countries with a AAA sovereign credit rating from all 3 major rating agencies. And indeed, I think in that report, S&P, and I was hoping for a question about the S&P report from those opposite, but it wasn't their first question that they wanted to run to. But S&P said Australia's fiscal performance is sound and Australia has modest public debt by international standards. It specifically calls out the government's ambitious tax and saving reforms for helping improve Australia's fiscal position over the next decade. And that is because we know that we had to, once we inherited a budget mess from those opposite who had doubled the debt before the pandemic hit and also had failed to address key areas of pressure on the government's budget, that we had to find savings in order to be able to meet some of those demands in NDIS, in early childhood education and care, in health, in aged care, in defence. Almost every area of government had a level of unmet need because those opposite, when in government, failed to do the policy thinking or the delivery in any of those areas to make sure that our national interest was being protected. Now, we have made the hard decisions in this budget alone, finding more savings than ever in previous updates. We've lowered the debt and we've lowered the interest on that debt to allow us to meet some of these other pressures.
Minister. Senator Dowling, first supplementary.
Thank you for that AAA-rated answer, Minister. How is the Albanese Labor government continuing to look at ways to provide cost-of-living support to more Australians?
Thank you, Senator Dowling. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. We've missed the jokes from Senator Dowling, but come on, that was a good one. One of the new ways that the Albanese government is providing cost of living support is through expanding the Commonwealth Prac payment to people training in an additional 10 key frontline health professions. This will provide cost of living relief for students and support our future healthcare workers. And this was an important announcement that the Prime Minister made building on the work that's already been done in this area, but shows the government's commitment to continue to look at ways to provide cost of living help in a way that doesn't add to inflation in our economy, and also in a way that the budget can afford. Responsible, funded cost of living support that makes a real difference to those students and should help them with some of those pressures, whilst also making sure that the budget can afford it.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Dowling, second supplementary.
Since the Albanese Labor government was elected, significant investments in Medicare have been made. How have these investments provided cost of living assistance through a stronger Medicare system?
Thank you, Senator Dowling. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Dowling for the supplementary. This is an important area where the government has consistently, over the number of budgets, invested in ensuring that Medicare is able to deliver the services it needs across the country. Again, it was one of those areas when we came to government. I think the Health Minister says that Medicare was on its knees and it needed significant investments to make sure that it continued to deliver accessible health care across the country. Just in the last couple of days, we've seen some of the first outcomes from the additional investment, demonstrating when you match that investment with a particular outcome and you drive for that outcome, and we see improved results. And that's what we're seeing with the bulk billing rate for the June 2026 quarter, rose to 84.1%, up almost 5 percentage points on the same quarter last year, the largest quarterly increase in 20 years. And in Senator Dowling's home state of Tasmania, the bulk billing rate has increased to 80.8%, up 5.5 percentage points, making a real difference to Tasmanian families.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie, welcome back.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Veterans Affairs. DVA requires doctors to provide medical evidence for liability and personal injury claims for veterans, but doctors are reporting that DVA is failing to pay for reports already completed and submitted. Not surprisingly, some doctors are now refusing to provide any more reports for veterans until their outstanding invoices are paid by the Department of Veterans Affairs. This puts veterans in the middle of a payment dispute between DVA and their treating doctors, and it is shameful, with claims that can't progress because the DVA needs medical evidence that isn't available, or they make a determination without it, or they force us into the hands of MLCOA, which is not our choice. This is causing significant distress to veterans and threatens to further reduce the pool of doctors willing to work with the Department of Veterans Affairs. How many liability and personal injury report invoices are currently unpaid, and how many doctors are waiting for payment? Now, I'm sorry I have to ask this in here, but DVA, I've been asking them for quite some time, will not give me that answer.
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President, and thank you, Senator Lambie, for your question, and as the President indicated, welcome back. Senator, you ask a very specific question around the number of invoices that are presently being processed and any indication about the time taken to process invoices submitted by medical staff to DVA. I don't have that information with me, and if I can locate anything of that kind, I'll return to the chamber. I think more broadly, of course, the government does want to see claims handled well and the experience for veterans improve. I think we've demonstrated our bona fides in coming to government and making very significant investments in the claims handling architecture for DVA, because we recognise that the previous arrangements were totally unsatisfactory. This has seen very significant improvements in the time taken for veterans to be able to access benefits, because we want veterans to have a positive experience and we want our veterans to feel supported. As I've indicated, I don't have specific information about the issue that you raised, but if I do have anything, I can return at some future moment.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie, first supplementary.
Thank you. From the discussions I've had with doctors, I'm aware of dozens of outstanding invoices, and DVA is not engaging with those doctors to resolve the basis for withholding payment. My office has raised the issue with the Minister's office on multiple occasions, yet veterans and doctors are still waiting. If a private business knowingly receives goods or services without paying for them, it might be considered theft. It's definitely not okay. What does DVA consider waiting months for payments to pay their doctors acceptable?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Senator Lambie, as I indicated in my response to your primary question, I don't have the factual information that you refer to in your question. I will return to the chamber if there is any further information I can provide.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie, second supplementary.
Thank you. DVA has failed to pay medical practitioners for liability and personal injury reports, with some invoices outstanding for months. Why should doctors carry DVA's financial burden? Will the minister commit today to pay the outstanding invoices and the interest due on those invoices as per the government's supplier pay on time or pay interest policy?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, again, Senator Lambie, your question rests on a number of assertions around the facts that I don't have available to me. I will say this, that the government, of course, is committed to paying suppliers who provide services to Australians within all of the ordinary program requirements, including all of the requirements about integrity and record keeping and all of those matters. If I have any information about the specific matters you've raised, I will return to the chamber.
Thank you, Minister. Senator David Pocock.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Wong. Minister, I would like to ask about Australia's commitment to Afghans who assisted our Defence Force personnel during the Afghanistan war. Afghans who laid their lives on the line, men and women risking everything to help us. Despite our country's commitment to protect them in return for their service, too many have been left behind. Two key programs, the Locally Engaged Employee and the Pathway for High-Risk Women, have now closed despite many Afghans not yet making it to Australia. You set out the principle yourself in this chamber in October 2023. Australia should stand by those who help us. Minister, is the government satisfied it has kept its word in getting the people who served Australia to safety?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Pocock. And I do appreciate the question very much. It does give me the opportunity to talk a little bit about one of the programs you identified, the Locally Engaged Employee Program, and the mess that was in when we came to government. I'll just make this point. It was, I think we all recall the fall of Kabul, and unfortunately there were too many Afghan citizens who worked for Australia or who were engaged in development projects or in other ways which put them at risk, who were not processed by the Australian government prior to our withdrawal. And I asked many questions about that in opposition. I got answers that that ministers saw it as a moral responsibility, a moral imperative, but that their words did not match, their actions did not match their words. And when we came to government, we saw, frankly, a mess when it came to the locally engaged employees' applications. I commissioned a report, a review of that by Rosemary Huxtable. I'm sorry, I think it was actually a different. I'll come back on the name. I think that was another report. And then we acted in line with all of the recommendations. And in fact, as Foreign Minister and the ministers in the portfolio, we have certified more than 660 applications from Afghan locally engaged employees, which is more than the total approved under all previous foreign ministers combined since the program began. As at the 27th of July 2026, 2,059 Afghan LEE have been certified. Over 5,700 have arrived in Australia. This comprises of—
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister, for that. I've heard from veterans who talk about the guilt that they felt coming back to Australia while their Afghan colleagues and friends were left behind. One man, unnamed for his safety, served beside our soldiers in Uruzgan, and his case sat untouched for 6 years until a Taliban bomb left him fighting for his life. He almost died waiting for that decision. Will the government commit today to bringing every certified locally engaged employee home?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Wong.
Thank you. It was Ms Vivian Tom who did the report, THOM. I apologise for mixing up the two reports which were certified at the same time. Can I indicate the way in which the locally engaged employee program works is that Those persons are then considered under Australia's wider humanitarian program and have a certain status as having been certified as an LEE under that program. More than 40% of total offshore humanitarian program visa grants over the last 4 years have been to Afghan nationals. We've in fact granted more visas under that program to Afghan nationals than any other nationality. After 5 years on from the fall of Kabul, can I say clearly our thoughts are with the people of Afghanistan as well as the Afghan community here in Australia.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Thank you, Minister. Minister, these people have waited years. Why should they have to wait? This was a commitment that we gave to them as a country. They helped our troops, and we said that we would in turn help them. Is there a timeline on ensuring that all of them get to Australia? And will the government refer this program to the Auditor-General so that Parliament can actually find out why this program has not delivered as we were promised?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, the program didn't deliver as it was promised because people were not processed under the previous government, and we had thousands of applications and they have now been dealt with. It took a lot longer than it ought have. The second point I'd make is the program gives people a right under the humanitarian program. There's not a separate visa. And obviously there are calls on Australia's humanitarian program well in excess of the numbers of places which are allocated. But as I said to you, you can see from the numbers, the weight of that program, the largest single cohort, is for people from Afghanistan or Afghan nationals. I'm pleased that we have finally ensured that all of these applicants have been properly processed in accordance with Ms Thom's recommendations.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Watt. An Islamic State bride, Rayyan al-Hululi, accused of indoctrinating her children into violent jihad, was freed on bail in July. Al-Hululi forced her children to watch propaganda videos of Islamic State fighters, filmed herself training her toddlers how to use a rifle and demanded they show her how jihadist fighters slaughter an infidel. She faces charges of being a member of a terrorist organisation and entering a declared conflict zone after allegedly fleeing Melbourne to join the Caliphate in 2014. Minister, Al-Hululi was granted bail due to your government's inadequate laws. Why won't you make the safety of the Australian people the #1 priority and stop charged terrorists being easily released on bail?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
And thanks, President. Thanks, Senator Hanson. Well, this government does absolutely take the safety of Australians as its utmost priority, and that's why in relation to this cohort we've provided no assistance whatsoever to enable these people to return to Australia. Now, I might point out to those chuckling and sniggering opposition members that that's exactly the same approach that was taken by the former government, although it is worth reminding the coalition that when they were in office, they assisted the return of over 40 foreign fighters. So people might like to be a little bit careful about claims that they're making right now. Senator Hanson, the end of your question talked about efforts that the government would take to stop people being released on bail. I'm not sure if you're suggesting that the government should intervene in decisions that are being taken by the courts. That's obviously not something that this government supports, whether it be about this sort of situation or in other situations. I can only assume that you're referring to the bill that you are seeking to introduce around temporary exclusion orders. And I remind you, as I said earlier today, that bill is almost certain to be found unconstitutional by the High Court if it were passed by this parliament. The current laws that we have in Australia, which were introduced by the coalition government, take the steps regarding temporary exclusion orders to the maximum limit they can be taken without falling foul of the Constitution. And it's this government's view that we should not be passing laws that we know are unconstitutional, that we know will be struck down by the High Court, and that we know actually put the safety of Australians at greater risk rather than removing that risk, and that is the approach that we are going to continue to take.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson, first supplementary.
Thank you very much. Well, Minister, we know that the courts actually look at legislation that's in place to actually make decisions, so therefore I'll go back to the laws. And it was under, well, you're in your 5th year in government and you knew these ISIS brides were returning to Australia. You knew foreign fighters were going to be charged with crimes in Australia, and yet you've done nothing to actually address that. And when you talk about the bill, you haven't even seen the bill. So how can you say it's unconstitutional? So I ask you, Minister, what legislation have you passed
the time for asking your question has expired. Please resume your seat. Minister Watt.
I think Senator Hanson's conclusion to the question was about steps that the government would take to stop these types of people being released on bail. And again, we're not going to intervene in the independent decisions of courts. We are going to ensure that Australian laws are as tough as they possibly can be in relation to this group of people, and they are. We have obviously considered what further steps can be taken around these laws, and the consistent advice is that any extension of the current laws around temporary exclusion orders or anything related to it would be knocked over by the High Court. And that would actually put the safety of Australians at greater risk. Now, Senator Hanson, I might remind you that when this government has attempted to take steps to keep Australians safe by, for example, passing laws to deport hate preachers, the One Nation Party voted against those laws. So when you've had an opportunity to stand up for Australian safety on migration matters, you've decided to vote against that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson, second supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, Labor has been dishonest about blocking ISIS brides from returning to Australia. You've been dishonest about whether accused terrorists can be stopped from getting bail. Another 13 suspected ISIS fighters could be freed from an Iraqi jail soon. How can the Australian people trust you will attempt to stop these ISIS fighters and sympathisers from returning back to Australia?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Well, Australians can certainly trust that this government will operate in line with Australian laws. We'll take the toughest possible action that we can under laws that are constitutional. Now, Senator Hanson talks a bit about dishonesty. I reckon what's dishonest is telling battlers that you're standing up for them and coming in and voting against wage rises. I reckon what's dishonest is saying we need more homes and blaming migrants for housing issues and then voting against more housing. I think that's dishonest. I think that what's dishonest is telling battlers that you're standing up for their health care and voting against a government that passes laws to provide more health care. That's what dishonesty is. That's what One Nation are. They are fundamentally dishonest when it comes to standing up for Australian battlers. They say they do one thing, they come down here and they vote with the Liberals, and that's because they are effectively the same. We know that One Nation can only enter government in partnership with the Liberals. We know that the Liberals can only enter government in partnership with One Nation, and that would be a disaster for working people and the people One Nation claims to represent.
Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations, Senator Watt. I'm very proud to be a member of a Albanese Labor government that's delivering real change for Australian workers. And helping Australians earn more and keep more of what they earn is at the very heart of Labor's economic plan. Can the Minister outline for us the latest wage increases that the government is delivering for workers in care industries?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Grogan, who, along with pretty much everyone in the Labor caucus here, has a proud record of standing up for the wages of Australian workers, something that can't be said for anyone from around there right through to— oh no, they've gone because they don't bother turning up for question time.
Minister Watt, we don't refer to whether senators are in or out.
Okay, we'll just talk about attendance at estimates instead. Higher wages is one of the best ways to help people with the cost of living, and that's what we're delivering for workers around the country. Wages for all workers are up due to the Albanese Labor government's workplace law reforms, and we've taken action to support workers in the care sector who've been undervalued for too long. Earlier this month, the government was proud to back the aged care nurses who look after our loved ones through another wage rise. Since we came to office, aged care workers have now received 5 wage increases because we believe these workers should be properly valued for the care they provide to our older Australians. This means that since we came to government in 2022, aged care nurses will have seen their pay increase by up to $36,000 per year. Supporting better wages and looking after workers is at the heart of our commitment to deliver real change for Australians, because these workers deserve more than our gratitude. They deserve fair pay for the essential work they do. This investment recognises the big contribution that nurses in aged care make to our economy and community, and will help to create a bigger incentive for young Australians looking for a rewarding career to choose aged care careers in the future. Better pay for aged care nurses means better care for older Australians. Our record boost to wages is making it easier for aged care homes to attract and retain nurses, ensuring older people can access higher quality, more consistent care. After a decade of decay under the Coalition, aged care workers deserved better pay, and in 4 short years Labor has delivered exactly that. This latest pay rise builds on our work to get wages moving and strengthen the sector for years to come.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you to Minister Watt for outlining that for us. The Albanese Labor government has put gender equality at the heart of the Fair Work Act. How has the government's investment in boosting wages in the care sector helped to narrow that gender pay gap?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Grogan. Well, under the Albanese Labor government, the gender pay gap is at its lowest level on record. Australian women are now earning more than $250 a week more than they were before we came to government. We've invested more than any previous government. Sounds like Senator Canavan's got a problem with that. We've invested more than any previous government to ensure workers in female-dominated occupations like aged care and early childhood and education and care are compensated appropriately to deliver the world-class care our parents, grandparents and kids deserve. Of course, there are some people in this place who think that women should continue being paid less than men over the course of their careers. Senator Hanson thinks the gender pay gap is all smoke and mirrors, as she said at the Press Club in July, and she's even said that women, quote, get themselves pregnant for the money. Now, this coming from the party that the Liberals want to form government with, because we all know that one nation can't win without the Liberals and the Liberals can't govern without one nation.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Australians are doing it tough right now, and cost of living pressures continue to impact families all around the country. Boosting wages of working Australians is one of the best ways to help those people with cost of living pressures. Can the minister please tell us why it is important to keep wages increasing, and what are the barriers to further wage increases into the future?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Grogan. Well, this latest pay increase for aged care workers means that since 2022, a registered nurse on the most common pay level will have seen their pay increase by more than $36,000 a year, while an enrolled nurse in aged care will have seen their wage go up by almost $32,000 per year. Our aged care nurses do an incredible job, and they deserve every dollar of this pay rise that Labor is delivering, just like our amazing early childhood educators, who've also received pay rises from this government over the past few years. And the truth is, the only barrier to further wage rises for those or other workers in Australia is a Liberal one-nation coalition government. Because when asked if these pay rises for female care workers were necessary, Senator Hanson said, "Didn't they get a pay rise not so long ago?" and then added, "Do we even need these services?" That's the kind of attitude that One Nation and their Liberal counterparts have towards Australian working people. It would mean lower wages, a harder life for Australian workers, and we are not going to stand for it.
Senator Canavan.
Thank you very much, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Minister, since Labor's May budget, Westpac says that new home loan applications have fallen by 20%, while the National Australia Bank reports demand for new loans down 15%. Will the government now admit that its property taxes have damaged confidence, and will it immediately remove its taxes to restore economic certainty?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Canavan for the question, and Senator Canavan speaks about taxes. And I do remind Senator Canavan that he was part of a coalition that went to the last election with a mandate for a commitment to higher taxes. Well, Senator, I would just make the point. You committed to higher taxes, and so I think.
Minister Gallagher.
I was going to say it's very hard to hear the answer to the question from those opposite interjecting.
It is indeed. I am going to just a moment. Senator McKenzie, you need to withdraw.
Withdraw.
Senator McKenzie, I would like you to stand properly and withdraw.
And I withdraw.
Thank you. And I would ask those on my left to allow me to hear what the minister has to say. Order. 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 Minister Wong, please continue.
Those opposite might want to play the outrage, but I make the point again. You went to the election under the senator who is now a deputy leader of the Liberal Party, being very clear that you would increase taxes, and now you you tell people you don't want to increase taxes. So I do.
Order. Order. Minister Watt.
Point of order. Just persistent interjection from Senator McKenzie, President.
Yes. I have called the chamber to order. Senator McKenzie, I'm asking you. Order. 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 Minister Wong, please continue.
Perhaps the two of you would like a debate by yourselves in the Senate. What do you reckon? The other point I'd make, Senator, is that it is important to continue to work to improve people's economic position. I would make the point that annual nominal wages have gone above 3% for 15 quarters in a row. That is the longest streak in more than a decade and a half. I don't believe they grew above 3% under the coalition, and we all know the coalition's position on minimum wages. And the gender gap is at an all-time low. And I know, Senator Canavan, you yourself have made comments in particular about where you were somewhat dismissive of the gender pay gap, but narrowing it actually means better outcomes for women across this country. We do understand Australians are under pressure, which is why the government has focused on cost of living relief, including tax cuts for every Australian taxpayer this year and next year, as well as the working tax offset and instant tax deduction.
Time for answering has expired. Senator Canavan, first supplementary.
Madam President, recently I met with Dimitri, a financial planner, and Nathan, a real estate agent, both from Rockhampton, who have seen firsthand the knock to economic confidence on their business of Labor's taxes. Has the government done any assessment of the impact on the lending slowdown for people like Dimitri and Nathan, and for others in real estate, mortgage broking and small businesses in this sector? And will the minister release this analysis?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Well, the government's focus has been delivering real change to build more homes and to help more first home buyers. That has been our focus. Unlike those opposite, we think housing affordability needs to be addressed, and we have thrown everything at it, and we have been doing this for 4 years. We are seeking to level the playing field for first home buyers, building more infrastructure, cutting red tape and approving more homes. The government's Housing Australia plan in 47—
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
Madam President, just on relevance for Nathan Dimitri, just asking about an analysis of the impact of them.
Thank you, Senator Canavan. The minister is being relevant. I'll continue to listen carefully. Minister Wong.
Well, I am asked about housing, and you're correct that the focus of the government's approach to housing has been to build more homes and to help more first home buyers. That is our policy objective. You may have other policy objectives, but we think that housing affordability is something that does need to be addressed, which is why we have worked on, as I said, range of measures which are all about addressing housing affordability.
Senator Canavan, second supplementary.
Thanks, Madam President. Minister, last week Minister Plibersek claimed that there has never been a better time to be a first home buyer. How can that be true when new loan applications are collapsing and finance is becoming harder to secure?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Our policies are unashamedly about trying to get more Australians into housing and being able to own their own home. And I know those opposite don't believe that the Australian dream of owning your own home should be something that is more accessible to more Australians, particularly young Australians. But we do. We do think it's important for the very many changes that the government has put in place, both on the supply side as well as the tax side, to ensure that we help more young Australians get into their first home. Senator Bragg, I know that that is not something you think should be a policy priority, but we do. We think we want more Australians who have access to the Australian dream that I assume that people in this chamber have had access to, which is the capacity to own your own home and to build a life.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Marielle Smith.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health and Ageing, Senator McAllister. We on this side of the chamber know how important it is to ensure that Australia has the health workforce we need now and into the future. A strong Medicare and aged care system only works because of the frontline workers who deliver it. Last month, the Albanese Labor government announced it would expand the Commonwealth PRAC payment to more frontline health professionals. Minister, can you tell us how is the government strengthening our future health workforce and easing the financial pressure on students studying these important courses and professions?
Thank you, Senator Smith. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President, and thank you, Senator Smith. Well, right now, a student training to be a radiographer has to complete more than a year of unpaid placement before they graduate. A student training to be a paramedic, an audiologist, a podiatrist often has to move away from home to complete it. Until now, they've done that all for free while still paying rent. And that changes under this government. We are expanding the Commonwealth PRAC payment to 10 more frontline health professions. Future psychologists, pharmacists and podiatrists will now get up to $338.60 a week while they train. That's in addition to the teaching, nursing, midwifery and social work students who are already receiving it. Think about what it actually means in practice. From next July, a physio student doing a placement at a regional hospital hours from home can better afford petrol or accommodation. An OT student completing their 1,000 hours of placement doesn't have to choose between their degree or their bills. Tens of thousands of students will benefit from this payment, and it builds on what this government has already done on cost of living for students, cutting student debt by 20%. And it matters. These are the people who look after us when we're sick. These are the people who will support Australians with disability. These are the people who will care for older Australians in their own homes. And we need more of them, not fewer. This is what strengthening Medicare actually looks like, making sure that the future generation of health workers can afford to finish their training.
Senator Smith, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. I know I've heard from so many young people in my community about the difference that this will make. And not only is the government backing the future health workforce, it's also making sure that we value the workers caring for older Australians right now. This month saw the 5th increase to award wages for nurses providing aged care services. Minister, how is the Albanese Labor government backing aged care workers to earn more and to keep more of what they earn?
Thank you, Senator Smith. Minister.
Thank you, President. Well, this month the Albanese Labor government delivered the 5th wage increase for aged care nurses because we believe that aged care nurses deserve more than gratitude. They deserve fair pay for their essential work. And this increase means that since 2022, a registered nurse on the most common classification will have seen their pay increase by more than $36,000 a year. And better pay for aged care nurses means that aged care homes and facilities can attract and retain nurses, delivering higher quality, more consistent care. It tells you everything about those opposite that when this government fixes a historic wage injustice, the Leader of the Opposition's response is to complain that these workers are disproportionately unionised and that they've received hefty pay increases.
Thank you, Minister. The time for
what a
answering
disgrace.
has expired. Senator Smith, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, it's great to hear how the Albanese Labor government is delivering for healthcare workers now and into the future, providing cost of living support for students and workers and helping Australians to get the care that they need. Can the minister outline whether anything stands in the way of our government's approach?
Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, Paid Prac is fundamentally about supporting hard-working students by paying them to train for their next job. Now, we're extending the same courtesy, the same arrangements to future psychologists, pharmacists and podiatrists that others in this place have extended to themselves. Because almost every member of the opposition who doesn't have one foot out the door seems to be doing Paid Prac at the moment for their next job. Senator Antic's Paid Prac seems to involve preparing himself for a future in One Nation. Senator McKenzie doing some Paid Prac in marketing. She's got very strong views about how One Nation should be spending their advertising budget and in what seats. And honestly, who knows what the Shadow Treasurer is actually training for, but it's certainly not his current role. He's off on Sky explaining that he sees himself as Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. Those opposite are not focused on the Australian people. They are focused on themselves, their own jobs and their future roles elsewhere.
Minister Wong.
I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Thank you. Senator McAllister, are you seeking the call?